A hiker, decked out in top-dollar gear, Gore-Tex, GPS, high-end everything, is found frozen stiff, just miles from help. It ain't rare. Happens more than we care to admit. Now picture a man in 1830. A Rocky Mountain blizzard, 40 below. Nothing on him but buckskin, grit, and a flintlock. No down jacket, no rescue beacon. Just rawhide and raw nerve. By today's logic, he's a dead man walking. But he isn't. He makes it. How? Because he knows what we forgot. That survival isn't in the gear, it's in the gut, in the brain, in bone-deep wisdom earned hard. He knew cold was a killer with 4 faces: conduction, convection, radiation, and evaporation. And he had a counterstrike for every one of them. But those lessons came dear. For every man who beat the cold, a dozen more were swallowed by it, frozen ghosts beneath the snow. This is Echoes Across the Frontier, and we are going to dive into how mountain men survived the deadliest colds. The 4 killers. The mountain man's fight against the freeze was forefronted. He didn't need science words. He lived it. Conduction, the heat thief you sit on. Lie down on frozen ground and it pulls warmth from you like a leech. Sit on a cold rock and the earth eats at your heat with silent hunger. First thing he did in camp: build a bed, pine boughs, dry grass, leaves, bark, anything that trapped air beneath him. A foot deep, maybe more. Not for comfort, for survival. Air pockets were his armor. Still, air doesn't steal. It shields. A buffalo robe thick as sin and heavy as guilt did the same. 40 pounds of fur and warmth. Thousands of hairs trapping heat in tiny vaults of air. It was like sleeping inside a furnace disguised as a beast. He knew you could freeze from the bottom up. A warm coat means nothing if the ground sucks the life out of you. He knew men who'd gone to sleep warm and never woke up. Not because of wind, not because of snow, but because the frozen dirt beneath them turned them cold from the spine out. Convection, the wind rider. Strip your heat layer by layer. You don't feel it at first, just a whisper, a breeze. But it gets in. Fine seams, holes, weak points. And when it does, it doesn't stop. Wind doesn't negotiate. He didn't know wind chill charts, but he knew what a 20-mile-per-hour gust did at 40 below. It killed fast. The breeze off a frozen river or whistling down a narrow gorge could be as lethal as any predator. His answer? Buckskin, brain-tanned and weather-hardened. Wind didn't pass through that. It bent around it. That leather, treated with animal brains and water, made a shell tough enough to laugh at the gale. It moved with him, not against him. It flexed when he drew his rifle or twisted through trees. Every night he picked his spot like a fox, behind rocks, deep in trees, wherever the wind lost its bite. A wall of snow or a cluster of thick firs. He made pockets of calm in a storm's wrath. He knew if he could hold the air still around his body, just a few inches, he could live. If he couldn't, he'd die. It was that simple. Radiation, the quiet killer. No wind, no contact, not just your body bleeding heat into a black sky. You don't see it, don't hear it, but you feel it. That deep cold on a clear night, it's not weather. It's space pulling at your warmth. Your head? A chimney. He capped it. Wool, fur, whatever held warmth. He even pulled his buffalo robe over his head at night, plugged every gap like he was sealing a boat. A man who slept with his scalp uncovered didn't wake up warm. Sometimes didn't wake up at all. Even now, science backs him up. 40% of your body heat can escape through your head. He didn't need a study. He had scars. He had stories. He remembered the men who laughed at sleeping caps and turned to ice before dawn. He didn't just survive. He strategized. He'd watch the sky. A clear night meant the heat would vanish faster. He'd feel it in his bones. He'd build higher beds, closer fires, lower shelters. Evaporation. The sneakiest one. Sweat meant death. Moisture was cold's best accomplice. Water pulls heat from skin 25 times faster than air. You work hard, chopping, hiking, hauling, and you sweat. That sweat freezes. Now your body's a freezer bag, and you're inside it. So he layered smart. Worked in rhythm, shed layers on the move, piled them back when still, took off his cap to cool down, opened his shirt in motion, buttoned it up the second he stopped. Wool was his secret. It stayed warm, even wet. Could drink up water like a sponge and still shield his core. Wool could hold 30% of its weight in water and keep 80% of its insulation. Cotton? Cotton was the devil. It clung cold and clammy and pulled heat out of a man's bones. The old saying held true. Cotton kills. He avoided sweat like others avoided snakes because he knew the end game. Once he was wet, the timer started ticking. Either he dried out or he died out. The living layering system. His clothes weren't just coverings. They were systems, living, breathing, adaptable armor. Never static, always shifting with the world around him. We zip up a coat and expect it to do all the work. He knew better. You wore your warmth like a mechanic handles tools. You used the right piece at the right time. No exceptions. Start with wool, the frontier miracle. Moisture didn't beat it. It could soak up water and still insulate. A wool shirt or union suit was his second skin, and not just any wool, greasy wool. Unscoured, rich with natural lanolin. That lanolin made it water-resistant, gave it a slick, earthy scent, and made it damn near indestructible. It smelled like the animal it came from, and that was fine. That smell meant survival. Next, buckskin. Brain-tanned, windproof, and breathable. It was his soft shell, toughest bark. Let the vapor out. Kept the wind out, too. But it had a weakness, water. Wet buckskin got heavy, stiff, useless. So he treated it, with bear grease or beaver fat. Rubbed in deep until it repelled the rain. Semi-waterproof, but not perfect. Buckskin had another trick. It didn't catch fire like modern synthetics. When he sat near flames, it didn't melt or shrink. It browned. It held. Then came the capote, the crown jewel. A heavy wool coat made from Hudson's Bay blankets. Long, hooded, thick with oily wool. Snow rolled off it. Rain beaded on it. It shielded head, face, legs, like wrapping yourself in a walking tent. A 4-point Hudson's Bay blanket, 72 by 90 inches, 8 pounds of frontier currency was the foundation. They traded those blankets like gold. A 4-point could buy a rifle, or a horse, or a man's loyalty. The capote wasn't for hiking. It was for surviving. You wore it when still, when sleeping, when standing guard in the black hours before dawn, the holy trinity of fire. Fire wasn't just warmth. It was everything. For the mountain man, fire was life. It dried his clothes, boiled his stew, scared off the beasts, and lit the darkest corners of a long, frozen night. It was heat. It was hope. It was home. And without it, he was dead. No gray area, no maybes. Dead. So he didn't rely on chance. He carried his fire with him, not in flames, but in knowledge. The Trinity. Flint, steel, charcloth. His fire-starting kit was a masterclass in simplicity. 3 items, all vital, all chosen with care. A piece of flint, hard, sharp-edged, often chipped to perfection. A C-shaped striker made from high-carbon steel, tempered, honed, tough. And the secret weapon? Charcloth. That flint wasn't just stone. It was the spark maker. When it struck steel, it shaved off tiny slivers of iron. Now the friction? Instant ignition. Sparks danced in the air like fireflies looking for a place to land. And when they landed on charred cloth, they lived. Char cloth looked like black paper, felt like brittle velvet, but it burned like slow coal. It didn't flash. It glowed, soft and steady. The perfect bridge from spark to flame. He made it himself, always, bringing flame to life. Once he had an ember, just a glow, the ghost of flame. He placed it in a tinder bundle. Cedar bark, cattail fluff, dry moss, shredded grass, anything dry, fibrous, and fine. He'd cradle it, gently fold the bundle closed. Then he'd blow. Slow, patient, measured. Not too hard, lest he scatter the ember. Not too soft, lest it fade. His breath was a bellows. Each exhale coaxed the glow. Each inhale brought the smoke. And then it would happen. The language of wood. If fire was life, then wood was its breath. The mountain man spoke the language of trees, not with his mouth, but with his eyes, his hands, and his axe. He knew their names, their textures, their gifts. Soft woods like pine and fir, they burned fast and hot. Perfect for kindling hope in a frozen dawn. Hardwoods like oak and hickory, they burned low and slow. Perfect for beds of coals. Perfect for cooking meat or lasting through midnight shifts. He could look at a tree, just a glance, and know its worth. Know if its bark peeled for tinder. Know if it split clean. Know if it smoked or sparked. Standing deadwood? That was gold. Even in rain, it held dry fuel. Its bark shed water. Its core held heat. And it wasn't learned from books. It was learned from frozen fingers, from failed sparks, from fireless nights where he cursed himself for cutting the wrong branch. This knowledge came one frostbitten error at a time. Let me know in the comments what you think is the most important piece of woodcraft a person can learn. His fires weren't accidents, they were architecture. Reflector fire. With a wall of logs or stones behind it, it bounced heat forward into his shelter, doubled the warmth with the same flame. Star fire, 5 or 6 logs laid out like wheel spokes, the center lit. As they burned inward, he'd push them in. One fire, all night, no tending. Dakota fire hole, dug in the earth, 2 holes, one for fire, one for air. Flames burned low, hidden, windproof, efficient. The enemy would pass by unaware. These weren't just fires. They were tools, friends, weapons. They warmed his skin, dried his socks, cooked his beans, lit the fear in the woods and kept it at bay. But more than that, they kept him sane. The internal furnace, his greatest weapon, wasn't his rifle, wasn't his fire kit, wasn't even his buffalo robe. It was his body. The mountain man understood the human body for what it truly was, a furnace. And like any fire, it needed fuel. Not just any fuel, fat. Fat was life. It was warmth. It was strength. He didn't fear it. He chased it, hunted it, revered it. His diet was carnivore heaven. Meat upon meat. But not the lean kind that today's health books preach. He went for the gold, the fatty cuts. Tongue, liver. Marrow sucked straight from split bone. Thick slabs of buffalo back fat, sometimes 6 inches deep. And then, the prize of prizes, beaver tail, a solid, glistening slab of pure fat, weighed 2 to 3 pounds, roasted over flame, until the skin blistered, cracked, peeled away. Inside, rich, oily, soft as butter. A feast. A celebration. You didn't just eat beaver tail, you earned it. You shared it, or you hoarded it for the dead cold nights when everything else failed. Because he knew something we forgot. Without fat, you die slow. He knew about rabbit starvation, a cruel paradox. A man could fill his belly with lean meat and still waste away. Without fat, the body couldn't process the protein. Muscles would wither. organs shut down, death inch by inch. The old-timers called it maldo caribou, rabbit sickness, a belly full of meat and a body full of frost. So he hunted for fat like a miner hunts gold. He didn't just eat. He stocked up, prepped, planned, 5,000 to 6,000 calories a day. That was his burn rate just to stay warm, just to haul sleds, chop wood, hike through waist-deep snow, and reset every trap line for miles. His furnace needed fuel and fat burned hot. He rendered buffalo fat into tallow, hard, waxy, long-lasting. It stored for months, didn't rot, didn't spoil. He could pack it in cloth or pour it into leather pouches. White gold. He smoked meat into jerky, dense, dry, reliable. He mixed dried meat with berries and melted fat into pemmican, a survival superfood. Compact, powerful, eternal. A pound of pemmican packed over 3,000 calories and could last for years. It didn't just feed the belly, it fed the will. A bear in October ready to den full of rich layers under the hide. Enough fat to grease a camp for weeks. A buffalo cow in fall, her back layered in creamy white insulation. Prime cut wasn't the steak, it was the fat. Elk were leaner, but their marrow could be scooped and spread like butter. A good elk femur was a treasure, he knew. And that knowledge kept him alive. Today we fear fat. We chase lean, trim the meat, worship protein, count calories like coins. But in the wild, fat was currency. Fat was armor. Fat was the difference between waking up warm or not waking up at all. He'd chew on dried fat like we chew gum. Pocket it, melt it in tea, mix it in stews. Every bite was a heat source waiting to be ignited. Comment. Beaver tail below if you'd be bold enough to try this mountain man delicacy. The lost mindset. So what did the mountain man know that we've forgotten? It wasn't just skills, it was mindset. We see cold as a nuisance. Flip a switch, turn a dial, fire up the car, tech takes over. But him? He saw cold as a force. Not evil, not angry, just indifferent. And he respected that. He didn't try to conquer the cold. He moved with it, learned its rhythm, studied its signals. He adapted to it like a wolf adapts to snow, not with defiance, but with knowing. Today, we outsource survival. We depend on things we can't fix: electric grids, thermostats, GPS signals, stocked shelves. And when the power cuts out, the road freezes, the store runs empty, we panic. He didn't, because he never assumed safety. He earned it. He didn't believe he was in control. He was a speck in a frozen sea, a fragile animal with just enough wits to make it till spring. He didn't fear nature, but he didn't mock it either. His lessons were earned, scar by scar, frozen finger by frozen toe. He buried the men who got it wrong. His knowledge wasn't trivia. It was trial and error and survival. He didn't carry comfort. He carried wisdom. That's the truth we've lost. Survival isn't what you carry. It's what you know. It isn't about dominating nature. It's about knowing your place within it. It's about humility. It's about reverence. It's about listening to the wind, reading the snow, trusting your instincts when nothing else works. He knew every dawn was a gift, every fire a triumph, every step a risk, every night survived a small miracle. Even the smallest choices, when to stop walking, where to pitch camp, how to angle the fire, were part of the equation. We forget that. We forget because we can afford to. But one day, we may not. So next time you feel that icy wind cut across your face, remember him. Remember the mountain man. Remember his skill, his strength, his solitude, and the quiet knowledge that kept him alive where others fell. Ask yourself, what have we lost, and what will it cost to remember? The answer, might be more than we're willing to pay. See you next time.